Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. So we had a minor issue with our technical side, but that meant that we lost the recording for for the host information session that we ran. But we wanted to re-record it so that everyone has a record of what we said and what was covered. If you have any questions or there's anything that isn't clear, feel free to reach out either to myself or Jess. Jess's email will be in the slides that we will share out. So the plan for today is to share a little bit about the Youth Environmental Service, who we are as an organisation, and what problem we're trying to solve and how we want to solve it. You'll also get a chance to hear a bit about our previous work on New to Nature and hear from a host, which is the lovely Georgia. Then I'm going to hand over to my colleague Jess, and Jess is going to take you through a bit more about the YES Bristol program itself, what it is, how it's going to work, and how to get involved. And at the end, we'll get to hear from Lauren and Nina, two of our New to Nature graduates, and they'll share a bit about their experiences on the program. So, the Youth Environmental Service is trying to create a new program in Bristol, which will support 50 paid 12-month placements at environmental organisations in the West of England Combined Authority. We want to really work to support underestimated and disadvantaged young people to create a better future for themselves. And that also means beginning the process of building a workforce that can actually deliver our environmental priorities and ensuring that employers and the sector are embedding real change to break down some of the longer term barriers to access and inclusion. All of this is aiming to help create conditions for a green transition that just doesn't leave anyone behind. And this is because we see two problems. So the first is from a young person's perspective, it's not a great time to be young. The number of young people who are not in employment, education, or training is at a 10-year high. So it's higher than it was during the pandemic. The pathways for young people to access good employment are narrowing, whether it's through apprenticeships or through universities. It's increasingly hard to find opportunities to do really great work. Mental health issues for young people are completely through the roof, and it's not really surprising because you're looking at a future that is completely clouded by things like Donald Trump, by climate change, and a range of different social and environmental issues. And all of this is so much worse if you face existing structural barriers. If it's someone who sits within an intersectional lens. On the other side, for employers, it's not a lot. For environmental employers, we have a growing green skills gap, and that's compounded by the fact that the space is continually and rapidly changing. The general awareness of what a green job is, what it requires, and what it might mean to do it is really low. And it's harder and harder and more expensive to employ and to nurture new talent, which as a result means that we as a sector remain one of the least inclusive and least accessible. Again, all of this is completely compounded if you're a small charity. And Bristol isn't immune to this. Despite being a bit of an economic powerhouse, it has the seventh worst district after 350 in England and Wales for inequalities. And young people in Bristol have above average hospital admissions for self-harm, and a disproportionately fewer number go to university in the region versus the national average. So the Youth Environmental Service was formed to address these issues. So we were inspired by programs like the American Climate Corps and Teach First. And we want to create a new way for young people to do good for the environment, for communities, and for themselves. Our vision is that every young person should have the opportunity to do a year of paid environmental work. And to do that, we work with existing environmental organizations to create and fill fantastic entry-level opportunities. And then we make sure that young people can thrive within them, either as a first step into the sector or a stepping stone to a good green career beyond. We were founded in 2021, 3 years ago, and we, at that time, ran a co-design with young people, with youth organizations, and environmental leaders. And that co-design led to our first pilot, a program called New to Nature, funded by the National Lottery Heritage Fund and delivered in partnership with Groundwork UK and others. The program covered 80 to 90% of wage costs and provided wraparound support for nearly 100 young people at 80 nature-focused charities across the UK. Almost all of our trainees were from ethnically diverse or economically disadvantaged backgrounds, or they were a young person living with disability. And the program was really, really successful. The majority of our young people are now in full-time employment. Most have stayed within the sector. We know that we've broadened horizons. We know that they've learned new skills and they've improved their well-being. And for host organizations, they've been able to adapt their processes. And almost all of the organizations that took part have said that they would take part in the program again. And I think a really important thing with this is to recognize the power from a host organization perspective of getting to employ someone as part of a wider network and within a wider group. You get to sit alongside peers and radically rethink how you might create opportunities for underestimated and underserved young people. And it allows you to not only deliver your organization's priorities, but also the opportunity to change the lives of the young people who take part. We heard from so many of our host organizations the impact of having a trainee. They brought new perspectives and new energy. We know at least one of them said their trainee helped them start on a journey of digital transformation. They shifted perceptions internally about how much value a young person in an entry-level role can bring, and have led to these host organizations rethinking their hiring policies, their employment policies, and what they need to do to support more young people into their organizations. And even more, the program provides you a sandbox. It allows you opportunities to test and explore new approaches, work alongside peers to find out how you can better support young and diverse colleagues and give them a platform to thrive. We had such a fantastic mix of organizations, as you can see on the slide. We're now going to be hearing from one of our host employers, Georgia Torres, who will be sharing a bit about Wildscreen's experience bringing Hazel through New to Nature. So yes, Georgia, let me hand over to you.
Thank you so much, Billy. And hello, everyone. I'm Georgia. I'm the outreach coordinator here at Wildscreen. We're a small conservation charity based in Bristol, which seeks to connect people with nature through storytelling. Our work is rooted in visual media, film, and photography, and we actively work to democratize the creation of and access to natural world storytelling. We are aware that in order to do this effectively, we have to lead by example. So ensuring that jobs within our own sector are accessible to everyone is something that's really important to us. New to Nature offered us the opportunity to diversify our team. It offered as well a broad umbrella of the green sector under which we could tailor a role which worked for us and our organisation. The pilot program actually came around at a really exciting period of growth for our charity. It feels like a long time ago now in 2021. But we were at a point where we were expanding our outreach to benefit younger audiences and also supporting emerging storytellers who were right at the start of their career within the wildlife, film, and TV industry. Gen Z are the most digitally connected generation, and we knew that we really needed in-house knowledge to ensure that we were engaging with them effectively in our wider comms. So we hope that by taking on a New to Nature trainee, that would help us to build our capacity and experience in reaching and engaging these young audiences through content creation and digital storytelling. The fact that the role wouldn't be tied to a specific project and could work across multiple departments also provided us and the trainee, Hazel, with the space to experiment with the content and platforms that best engage young people and underrepresented audiences with nature, which is so beneficial for a small and nimble organisation because we're super multifaceted. We do tons of different stuff. In terms of the benefit to our trainee, the financial security of the program provided and allowed us to take on a role which we wouldn't have been able to fund otherwise, but that also directly benefits the trainee, giving them the space to grow, learn and upskill in a way that works best for them rather than being tied to a particular project. Both our own trainee and the others that we met were super eager to learn. They were dedicated, and most importantly, they were in the job for the right reasons, or they wanted the job for the right reasons, because they wanted to progress, I guess, professionally in a role that positively contributed to nature. Sorry, I'm just gonna have a drink of water. One of the best questions I was asked when interviewing for the trainee role was, why do you like working here? And my honest answer, sorry, was that I feel like I'm doing something with a purpose. I can go home every night feeling like this really small contribution that I've made at my keyboard has a wider purpose. It's contributed to something bigger, even though it was a small action. And within each generation that comes through, the pool of people who want to work for a purpose, to feel like they're doing something positive for the planet grows. And young people are activated, they're motivated, they're ready to learn, And this was definitely reflected in our applicant pool and the wider New to Nature cohort. On top of the funding, the programme also opened up lots of resources and training opportunities to us. So we're really keen to get involved in order to learn and update our approach to recruitment, making it a more equitable process from the get-go. The guidance provided made our application process more accessible and therefore attracted a more diverse applicant pool. And we still actually use that framework, and we often get asked a lot of questions from other organisations about it and get to share that knowledge with them. So it has this huge ripple effect, which is amazing. And we see those organisations that we may have spoken to 2 years ago now still using those processes and making it their own and adapting it, and therefore making their hiring processes more equitable in the long run. It provided a really safe space as well, the programme as a whole, for organisations wherever they were on their diversity journey. The access to training was super invaluable. And our team, although we'd been working really hard in that area for a number of years, what was actually really striking was the amount of organisations that were right at the start of their journey, who had tiptoed around taking those first steps into diversity, inclusion, and accessibility for fear of not really actually knowing where to start and for making mistakes. But by creating that really supportive community and providing easy access to learning opportunities, which allowed for questions to be asked in an environment that was safe and nurtured you to learn and grow, that was something for those organisations that were right at the start of their journey. It appeared that it was really invaluable, to be perfectly honest with you. And they obviously valued it a lot, as well as allowing us to upskill and learn as an organisation. Of course, participating in the programme impacted us in loads of different ways. So it was really refreshing to welcome a younger perspective that brought native and intuitive knowledge of engagement trends into the team, especially when we were going through that period of growth. And over the course of the placement, we widened our offering, which allowed us to engage with more communities globally and engage with individuals who are outside of our echo chamber and current audiences. Our trainee fed those different perspectives into our engagement strategies and strengthened them all round. Like the green sector, there are huge barriers to entry into the creative sector for individuals from underserved communities. So ensuring that opportunities that intersect the two industries like we do reach these audiences is absolutely key to diversifying them in the long run. Again, having a role that could feed into various projects was invaluable, and it allowed us to work as a small charity in an agile and nimble way to best serve our audiences. And it also provided an opportunity for younger members of the team to gain skills in mentoring, training, and management. Even though we're 2 years on, the impact of the programme still resonates. We've built on what we've learned. We have continued to evolve as a team, and we've continued to enrich our offering with a diversity of perspectives. It also allowed us to broaden our view on how we can best support and identify the gaps where our current framework needs changing, both within and outside of the programme. So there were a few aspects that we identified that weren't meeting everyone's needs. So when we originally interviewed for this trainee role, we actually met two fab candidates. And we were really keen to take them both on, but realistically, one of them could only do 1 day a week, as they were completely new to employment and were finding the prospect quite daunting. Unfortunately, New to Nature couldn't support a job share, so we decided to develop a smaller scheme which directly addressed the needs of those who need more space and flexibility. So using New to Nature as a model and kind of copying you guys a little bit, but on a much smaller scale, we secured funding for a small programme that addressed these barriers to entry into the workforce and supported people who were new to working and new to the working environment, who needed nurturing, time and space in order to develop skills. What we ended up with was we offered 3 paid internships of 120 hours each over 12 weeks. These were really flexible, so they could be consistent, so 10 hours a week, or they could build slowly. So people could start, for example, on 3 hours a week, and then maybe in a couple of weeks' time, move up to 6 hours a week. and slowly build their confidence until they felt that they could do that bigger chunk of work and maybe be in by the end for 4 days a week, which was great. And New to Nature allowed us to do that. It allowed us to understand how we could put something like that in place. So, in summary, New to Nature has allowed us to learn as an organisation, better support young people wanting to enter the green sector, and it also had a ripple effect, allowing for knowledge sharing and partnerships, as well as positively supporting young people to take their first steps into the world of work. Taking on a trainee will only enrich your team and bring fresh perspectives and opportunities. And we would recommend to any organisation, however big or small.
Thanks so much, Georgia. That was really, really inspirational to hear all of the impacts that New to Nature had, and also the really amazing steps that you've taken to continue on from there. Thanks so much. Right, so I am now going to talk a little bit about YES Bristol, which is the new programme that we are setting up in Bristol in the west of England. I'm just going to share my slides. Does that work? Great. So, YES Bristol is a new programme that we're setting up in Bristol in the west of England, which is aiming to create 50 new paid placements in environmental organisations in 2025. So we're going to be working across 7 key sectors in the environmental sector. So that's nature recovery and urban greening. So that would be, for example, organisations that might be planting woodlands, protecting specific ecosystems or creating habitats such as rivers, wetlands, managing nature reserves, or encouraging people to connect with nature. So that could be community gardens and city farms. Then we've got sustainable built environment, which could be organisations that are focused on retrofitting buildings, green architecture, or developing water saving systems. Then low carbon energy transition, which could be organisations that are working across the whole range of installing, generating, or supplying renewable energy. Food and farming would be organisations that are producing food in a nature-friendly way. So that could be market gardens, small holdings and farms. No need to be certified organic, just as long as you're working in a nature-friendly way, alongside green agri-tech businesses or food distribution hubs. Climate resilience would include organisations that are working with communities to prepare for and adapt to the impacts of climate change. So anything from raising public awareness, increasing community readiness, or working on nature-based community solutions. Green transport systems would be any organisation that's working on finding cleaner, greener, better ways to move people and stuff around. So obviously including public transport, installing cycling and walking infrastructure, or installing electric vehicles charging stations, for example. And then finally, last but not least, circular economy. So that would be organisations that are focused on reducing our consumption. So pollution prevention, encouraging reuse and repair, or renting or leasing of products. So for example, libraries of things, or organisations that are working on recycling materials and resources. So we're really broadening out from the focus just on nature organisations in the previous programme to really include the whole environmental sector. We're also looking to work with all types of organisation, so including charities, social enterprises, community and interest companies, public bodies or for-profit businesses. However, we are keeping our focus on the same groups of young people. So that could be young people that are from an economically disadvantaged background, that might be living with a disability, or are from a global majority community. So these are all groups of young people that are currently really underrepresented in the environmental sector and also underestimated by society. And we want to work with organisations in the environmental sector to change that. So we're still working on the similar model of support from the previous programme. So looking at offering support before, during and after the placements. So for young people, That would look like before the placement even starts, we'd be offering green careers signposting and awareness building through our website and also through targeted outreach campaigns. And we'd also be offering the streamlined recruitment process that Georgia mentioned, that really helps to make our application process more accessible and more approachable for young people. So this approach was tried and tested in the previous programme, and the recent evaluation that's just been released showed that 98% of trainees thought that the application process was straightforward and clear, with one young person saying that they thought that it was the most straightforward, transparent and responsive job seeking and starting that they'd ever experienced. And that's really important for getting off on the right foot and for building trust with people that might not have had the most positive experiences of job seeking in the past. During the placement, we'd offer a multi-layered learning and development programme that runs alongside workplace support, which would really just make sure that young people are supported from lots of different places to make sure they get what they need to really thrive. So from our side, that would look like a 2-day residential course before the work placement start to help settle first day nerves and to begin forming networks of support across the cohort. There'd be access to a one-to-one employment coach for the full 12 months of the programme, alongside facilitated peer consulting, which is based on an action learning framework. So that's the same group of young people with a facilitator that kind of meet regularly and try and support each other to find solutions to issues they might be facing. And then a participatory in-person training programme, which will be based on developing communication, resilience, and problem-solving skills. After the placement, there'll still be ongoing support. So continued access to personalised careers guidance and advice for graduates of the YES programme, job signposting and networking opportunities, and access to a growing network of YES alumni. For host organisations, we'll also be offering a similar kind of wraparound support. So before the placement starts, we'll be helping with accessible recruitment and outreach into underrepresented communities. Now, we know that everyone will already be doing a lot of work in this area, and that each organisation will have their own outreach networks and recruitment processes. We also know how much time and energy it can take to really get your recruitment opportunities out there. What we want to do is we want to support and amplify your existing work. And we'll be working with a network of partner organisations to help us do targeted outreach into underserved communities throughout the west of England. So really helping to make sure that your organisation's opportunities are seen by young people that might not have otherwise seen them and might not otherwise have considered applying. We'll also help to refine your job adverts and job descriptions and offer advice on recruitment processes. So making sure that they're accessible and appealing, building on the processes that we developed and tested in our previous programme. However, it's important to point out that each organisation will still own their own recruitment process from shortlisting to selection. So each organisation will still be able to select the best candidate for their roles, just like any other recruitment. We won't be matching you with a trainee. You'll actively be choosing who you work with. We're also working on building a funding pot, which will mean that we'll be able to offer salary subsidies to smaller organisations and charities that would otherwise struggle to be able to cover the full cost of their trainees' wages. So this is to support organisations to help young people to take their first step into an environmental career. During the placement, we'll be hosting peer-to-peer learning sessions, which will be facilitated by local inclusion experts, which will be focused on sharing best practice and overcoming challenges in becoming more accessible, inclusive and diverse as a sector. Organisations will also be invited to participate at various stages of the young people's learning programme. So to share organisational perspectives and expertise and work on co-producing a set of recommendations for improving inclusivity within the environmental sector. After the placement, we'll be sharing that report with all of its recommendations, and there will be that access to that growing network of YES graduates and organisations for ongoing recruitment, community building and sharing of best practice. So we are aiming to subsidise wages to enable the creation of new roles that can help have a big impact. We'll be offering those wage subsidies on a tiered basis. So we're aiming for 25 unsubsidised placements at Tier 1. Then we're looking to create 15 placements at Tier 2, which will come with a 40% subsidy, and then 10 at Tier 3, which will come with an 80% salary subsidy. The 40% tier will be open to all charities and non-profits, with the 80% tier reserved for smaller organisations with a turnover of less than £1 million per annum. However, for that higher tier, we will be prioritising smaller organisations. So those with turnovers of under 650k are more likely to be offered funding, especially at the higher rate. And this is because we want the programme to be as accessible and as financially sustainable as possible. So we're asking profit-making organisations, larger charities and public bodies to shoulder more of the costs to allow smaller organisations to participate. We do also want to support capacity building in the sector because we know how difficult it can be, especially at the moment, to open up new opportunities. So we're prioritising the creation of new roles for the higher level of funding. But this doesn't mean that we're expecting you to pull a new role out of thin air to be able to take part in the programme. We are still offering support for existing roles. So those would be roles that you might already have identified a need for, that might already appear on your organisational structure, or you might have already started finding some budget or allocating budget for them. But these roles need to be either currently unfilled or perhaps due to be open for recruitment in the coming year. So just to be clear, we will only consider roles that don't cause existing employees or apprentices or contractors to lose work or have a reduction in their working hours. At this point, we just need to highlight that YES isn't primarily a funding body. So we're unfortunately not sitting on a huge pot of cash or a large endowment. We are, however, actively fundraising to be able to give these subsidies. So we're fundraising from our network of funders and corporate partners. And so at the moment, the numbers of subsidised placements we'll be able to offer will depend on how these conversations go. And those conversations are currently going quite well. We've confirmed all of our core funding for next year, which means that the programme is definitely going to go ahead next year. And we're taking a blended approach to financing the project. So we're asking grant funders to cover the learning programme, and then we're looking to bring in corporate support to cover the wage subsidies. We're working on a lead partner model with large employers in each sector being asked to step up, so to both create placements and to contribute to salary subsidies for smaller not-for-profits within their sector to enable them to take part. We've currently got several open conversations with potential lead partners, and these are all sounding quite positive. However, we do still have space for a few more. So please don't be shy. Do get in touch with us if you think that your organisation might be interested in acting as a lead partner, or if you think you might be able to suggest a business that could work with us in that lead partner capacity. In terms of what we're looking for in a placement, we're looking for placements that can give a real direct positive environmental impact. And also roles that are in one of our 7 environmental sectors. However, we know that direct environmental impact doesn't mean that they all have to be spades in the ground, boots on the ground kind of roles. We know that both practical and desk-based roles contribute to impact and the success of projects. So, for example, that could be roles in communications or marketing, project delivery, project admin, practical or physical roles, roles in project monitoring, grant evaluation, etc. All of those would be relevant to the programme. But for example, roles in the IT department or the finance department, perhaps not quite so much. So we're really looking for interesting roles that allow young people to build their skills and experience and will help set them on the path of a rewarding environmental career. So we're looking for roles that are full-time, which for us is around 35 hours, but there is some flexibility to meet the needs of individual trainees and organisations. We also ask for all roles to be paid at the real living wage, so that's currently £12.60 an hour, and that they be true entry level, so roles that don't require years of experience, or for people to have technical skills that they couldn't learn on the job. We're also open to running our programme alongside apprenticeships. In reality, we know that the majority of the roles created through this programme won't be apprenticeships, but we do recognise that apprenticeships do work really well for some sectors. So we're open to that conversation, so do get in touch. In terms of timescales, we're working towards placements beginning in autumn 2025. So we're currently open for expressions of interest from host organisations, and that EOI window is closing at the end of January. After that, we'll then invite organisations to a second stage in February. That will still be quite a relatively light touch application. We won't be asking you to fill in pages and pages. But we will be looking for a more detailed and developed job description, and we'll be doing some due diligence to ensure that you've got all the appropriate policies and procedures and bits of paper in place. By that stage, we will have confirmed what funding we have available and will inform all organisations that have put in an expression of interest how many subsidies we're able to offer and at which tier. For organisations that are applying for subsidies, we'll be selecting based on the quality of the roles on offer and their potential to increase the trainees' skills and career prospects, alongside your organisational commitment to forming a youth-friendly and inclusive culture and your capacity to engage in the learning and development programme. We'll be looking to confirm placements and put funding agreements in place by late spring, so April, May, and then we'll be opening recruitment shortly after that, with interviews taking place over summer and early autumn, in time for trainees to start their placements in autumn. At this stage, we need to say that we do think that competition for wage subsidies will be quite tight, especially at the higher funding brackets. So we really encourage all organisations to really think about whether you might be able to fund some of these roles as part of your existing recruitment plans, or for example, if you do need a subsidy, would a 40% subsidy be enough to enable you to create the role? So this is your call to action. Please do submit an expression of interest to let us know that you'd like to be involved in the programme. It's a really short form. So we're just asking for some organisational details, a brief role title and description, and an indication of what funding tier you'd like to apply for. So it really won't take any more than 10 minutes to fill out. And also at this stage, it's not a commitment to create those roles, but it really does help us to understand the range of roles potentially on offer and helps us to plan appropriately. So please, if your organisation is even potentially interested in taking part, then we'd really, really encourage you to put an expression of interest, which you can do on our website. So that is enough from me. I'm now going to hand over to Nina and Lauren, who are both past trainees in our past programme, and they're going to share a bit about their experiences. So over to you, Nina.
Hi everyone, so I'm Nina and I was a New to Nature trainee. I started last April, although it seems ages ago now. So I'm going to tell you a bit about my life before New to Nature, what I did during the programme and where I am now. But for that to kind of make any sense, you have to know a bit more about me. So I'm going to go straight into it and tell you a bit about where I was a couple of years ago. For context, I live with a disability. It's called chronic fatigue syndrome, or ME, and I was diagnosed when I was about 16. Due to the severity of the condition, I had to leave school at the time. So my plans of get A-levels, go to university, get a job, was pretty much thrown out the window straight away, and kind of left me in a bit of a confusing position. What you do when you have this condition is you just work yourself up bit by bit, and you hope that one day you can do enough activity where you can get a job or go back into study. So, skipping forward about 2 or 3 years, I was in a position where I could find part-time work, and I ended up in retail at a Next near me. They did really short shifts, so that was fantastic. It didn't really align with my passions of doing something positive for the environment and more aligned with selling sofas and lots of homeware to people, which wasn't quite what I wanted to do. But at the time, I was really appreciative for that opportunity. But as time went on, I was there for about a year and a half. Kind of it got less and less good, and the contrast to what I was wanting to do in my personal life and sort of championing sustainability with what I do daily and with my friends and family, and kind of wanting to do something more positive was really at odds with what I was doing. So I decided to look for other avenues. Unfortunately, there were literally no options. I only have GCSEs, and I was looking for some quite part-time work, probably about 20, 25 hours a week. And when you're talking entry level to environmental sector, that's really not something that's available. If you're going entry level, sort of just having GCSEs, you can maybe get an apprenticeship, but they're full time and normally outdoors, and it just wasn't something that I was able to do. So I pretty much resigned myself to the fact that I was never going to be able to do something that I found fulfilling in work, and that's just how it is sometimes. Although quite difficult to face that fact when you're in your early 20s. So it's a difficult time, but luckily I found New to Nature. So my life didn't turn out in some miserable grey way. I was able to apply for grants and outreach officer at Cotswolds National Landscape, and I got the job. So I embarked on my 12-month journey, and I got to really learn so much about the industry, and I got to see my value in that as a young person, and as a young person coming from sort of an underrepresented background within that. I got to learn from all of my team members. They were really open and welcoming, and the first 6 months of my position was really sort of open, and kind of we were able to tailor the last 6 months to what I really found my niche to be. So I joined team members like out in the field. I did grassland creation basically all summer with one of our team members. I did some education and outreach and all sorts of stuff, and I learned so much about how varied green jobs can be. So that really put me in a positive mood, and learning that everyone I spoke to be honest, most of them didn't come from a straightforward background of doing environmental science or geography and then going into it. They kind of zigzagged all over the place, which was really encouraging. So during that whole 12 months, we had the New to Nature program running alongside all of my work. So I got to do lots of training, whether that's kind of soft skills and problem solving or more directly related, like carbon literacy training. We had a whole program of workshops and training that went along with that really helped to solidify my experiences in the environmental sector. And importantly, the peer support network, which meant that we could connect with other trainees in similar situations, because it's quite daunting to be put in a situation where you are admittedly new to something and everyone knows it. You can then, reach out and talk to about, 90 people who are in the exact same position, which is so nice and comforting. And it really kind of helps build your confidence, knowing that everyone else is just getting on and doing great things as well, and you can too. So I had such a fantastic experience over the time, and that brings me to where I am now. So my contract was extended by a year, so I'm currently until April next year, where I will have 2 years of relevant experience, which is mind-boggling. And it means that I can go from that and really be able to go on to quite a few things, actually. I could go probably about 4 different directions, but still be in an industry that I really enjoy and that I think find fulfilling. I could probably go onto a job website and find, 10 jobs that I would love to do and that I actually have a decent chance at, with, recent and relevant experience and training. And I think I've taken a lot from that, knowing that I bring a lot to the table, regardless of formal qualifications and regardless of the fact that I need to have part-time working. If you're with the right organization who is willing to accommodate that and understands your value, you can bring so much to any job with some passion behind it. Yeah, so my life is completely unrecognizable, basically, to what it was before, and I am grateful for that every day. So yes, thank you all for your interest in this program and for everyone who's going on to continue this great work. But that's all for now.
Thank you so much, Nina, for sharing your experience. That was really, really inspirational to hear. And now over to Lauren.
Hi everyone. So I was also a Need to Nature trainee, and I worked for the Youth Environmental Service as the program delivery trainee. So my role kind of revolved around getting to support different areas of delivering the Need to Nature program. So I kind of focused on communicating with the trainees and being like a point of contact for them. I also helped to coordinate and plan the different learning sessions that we ran, which was really fun. And later on in the year, I also supported with the kind of communication side of things and sharing the impact of the program. But I guess what initially drew me to getting involved in the program was that I wanted to kind of, before I finished uni, had some experience in the environmental sector, because I knew I wanted to work in the sector. I've been studying environmental studies at uni, but I just didn't know what area specifically I wanted to work in. And so I wanted to kind of use some time within my degree to figure some things out in terms of like my career ambitions. But yeah, I was really struggling to find anything that was entry level and that kind of valued the transferable skills I felt like I had. And so coming across New to Nature felt really perfect, really, because they prioritized passion and genuine interest over the experience that you had. So I felt like I finally had the chance to actually, I mean, even get an interview, really, but also get the job as well. Like I felt just so much more confident going into the application because it felt like I had a chance finally. And yeah, throughout my role, like I just got to learn so much and be in such a supportive work environment, which was really nice. It felt like a really lovely way to start my career in the sector because there was kind of the understanding that, yeah, you were new and you were going to make mistakes. And like this was an opportunity to really learn and figure out what you were interested in throughout the year, which I found really nice. And yeah, as the year went on, I definitely realized that my interest was more in the communication side of things. And I was really lucky that my role was then kind of catered towards that interest, which was really nice. And I got to do training associated with comms and just get a lot of opportunities focused in that area, which was really beneficial. And I learned so many skills through that and just got a lot of really valuable experience. And I think, yeah, like Nina was saying, I feel like a really valuable part of the time on the program was getting to build connections with other trainees. I think I really benefited from getting to meet other people at the same point in our careers, like all trying to figure things out and experiencing a new role. It was really nice to get to have other people to talk to about that. And I've made some really good friends through the program, which has been really nice as well. And I think in general, just looking back over the past like 2 years, I've learned so much and just become a lot more confident in myself and in my abilities as well, which has been really nice. And yeah, since the program has ended, I've been kept on at YES, which has been amazing. And I've got more of a comms focused role, which has been great. And I've got to take on more responsibility and just continue learning in the sector, which has been really nice. So yeah, overall the program's just been amazing. And I feel like it's really like transformed me and my life over the past like year.
Thanks, Lauren. Really, really great to hear your experience as well. And yeah, it's been fantastic working with you since I've been at YES. So this is, I'm just going to share the final slide, which again is just let's make this happen. We really encourage anyone watching this that might be interested to submit an expression of interest. Please also do spread the word. So if you have any other organisations that you know of that you think might want to get involved, then please do let them know about this opportunity and encourage them to sign up. Alongside that, please do connect us to potential lead partners, which will really help us to unlock more funding, to create more placements, and to really start building this movement. Please also do just reach out and start a conversation. Share any feedback that you might have about our process or suggestions that you have, ways that we might be able to make it easier for your organisation to take part. We're really open to having those conversations. We're consistently seeking to refine and improve our approach, and we would really, really love to hear from you. So yeah, that's it. Please do get in touch. There's my email address there at the bottom of the screen. And yeah, if you do have any questions, either for me or Billy, or for Georgia, Nina, or Lauren, again, please just do send us an email, and we will do our best to answer you. So yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks for watching. Cheers.
Thank you.